In science education, there's a quiet revolution happening. We're moving away from the old idea of a teacher just standing at the front of the room and lecturing. Instead, we're shifting toward a new role, empowering students to become the builders of their own understanding. So today, let's explore the blueprints for this new, exciting approach. For the longest time, we kind of thought of teaching as just a transfer of knowledge, like pouring information from the teacher's head into a student's supposedly empty mind. But the constructivist view sees it totally differently. It says learning is an active process. Students aren't just passive sponges. They're constantly trying to make sense of the world, building their own meaning from everything they see and do. I love this analogy because it just nails it. The student is the architect, and they're the builder. They're designing and constructing their own house of knowledge. The teacher's job isn't to just hand them a pre-built house. Nope. Their job is to provide the best materials and the right tools for the job. This idea, the student as a builder, is going to be our guide for this whole explain. Okay, so if the student is the builder, what does that make the teacher? That one question completely changes their role in the classroom. The teacher transforms. They go from being just a source of information to being a facilitator. And this is an incredibly active job. They have to be a diagnostician, figuring out what students already know, or what they think they know. They become a creator of cognitive conflict, which is a fancy way of saying they challenge students' ideas to make them think deeper. They provide hands-on experiences, and, this is so important, they encourage students to step back, reflect, and really test out their new understanding. Now, to make all this happen, educators have an amazing toolkit filled with different learning models, and you can really think of them as the blueprints for building that house of knowledge. We're going to look at 4 of the most powerful ones. So, what exactly is a learning model? Well, you can think of it like a lesson plan on steroids. It's a whole framework, a real blueprint that pulls together teaching strategies, the psychology of learning, and even how you'll evaluate success, all designed to hit a specific learning goal. So here are the 4 blueprints we're going to cover. First, the interactive model, which is all about following a student's curiosity. Then, the integrated model, which helps connect different ideas. Third is the learning cycle, which has this really natural rhythm of discovery. And finally, the CLS model, which is specifically designed to help change students' minds. All right, first up is the interactive model. And the guiding idea here is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You start with what the student is curious about. And that's exactly why it's often called the children's question approach. The entire lesson, the whole experience, is built around getting students to ask their own questions and then giving them the tools and the freedom to find the answers through their own investigations. The learning is totally driven by them. So how does this actually work? Well, it rolls out in 5 clear phases. It begins with preparation, where the teacher just picks a broad topic. Then comes exploration, where students get to mess around with materials freely. This is what sparks the children's questions. From there, the teacher helps them focus on their questions, which leads right into the investigation phase. And finally, they all come together for reflection to talk about what they found out. For instance, let's say the topic is pets. Students might get to play with different pet toys or look at different kinds of pet food. That could spark all sorts of questions like, hey, why do cats purr? Or what do hamsters actually eat? From there, each student could investigate their own question and then share what they learned with the class. Okay, our second blueprint is the integrated model. This one shifts from individual questions to a more holistic view, helping students see that the world is this big, interconnected place. Here's the key insight. Young students don't see the world in neat little subject boxes like biology and physics. To them, it's all just the world. So this model uses a central theme, kind of like an umbrella, to link different science concepts together, which makes the learning feel way more natural and relevant. A field trip with the theme "to the zoo" is a perfect example of this. You're not just there to learn biology. Of course, you can study animal classification, but you can also explore the physical science behind the materials in their enclosures, or even the physics of how a monkey swings from bar to bar. It's one theme, but it connects all these different concepts. Our third blueprint is the learning cycle model. This one is really popular because it has this beautifully simple and effective 3-part structure. This cycle just makes sense. First, students explore. They get hands-on experience with stuff before you give them any formal instruction. Then, based on what they observed, the teacher comes in to introduce the official concepts and vocabulary. And finally, students apply those new concepts to solve a new problem, which really locks in their understanding. Explore, introduce, apply. It's a great rhythm. And finally, we have the CLIS model. That stands for Conceptual Learning and Instruction Strategy. Now, this is maybe the most structured model of the four because it's designed to do something very specific, to engineer a change in a student's existing and often incorrect ideas. And this gets to a really fundamental challenge in teaching. Students don't come to us as blank slates, right? They have their own theories about how the world works, and a lot of the time, those are misconceptions. So how do you effectively challenge an idea that's already taken root in someone's mind? Well, the CLIS model gives us the answer in 5 phases. After an orientation to get them interested, the teacher elicits their initial ideas, gets them out on the table. Then comes the crucial part, the restructuring phase. This is where students are intentionally exposed to conflict situations, where their own ideas are pitted against scientific facts to help them build a new, more accurate understanding. Let's use the topic of respiration. A teacher might start by asking students their initial ideas about breathing. Then, in that restructuring phase, they'd introduce the scientific facts about oxygen and carbon dioxide, creating a direct conflict with common misconceptions. And finally, students could apply this new, correct understanding to a real-world problem, like understanding the effects of smoking on the lungs. So let's bring it all back to our original analogy. In this new vision for the classroom, the student is the builder, actively putting together their own knowledge. The teacher is the facilitator, guiding the whole process and making sure they have the right tools. And these learning models we've talked about, they are the essential blueprints for building deep, lasting understanding. So whether you're sparking curiosity with questions, integrating big themes, or directly challenging misconceptions, each of these blueprints offers a powerful way to build knowledge. The real challenge and the art of teaching is choosing the right blueprint for the job and empowering every single student to become the architect of their own learning.